Welcome to Project You. This podcast explores how integrating changes into your day can produce the best in health, longevity, and performance. We've recruited experts from around the globe who unleash their wisdom to transform your world. Project You dives into how to live a fully optimized life and uncovers tools and techniques to unleash your maximum potential. You only get one shot at this life, so let's get started.
Welcome. This is episode 35 of the Project You podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mitchell Schwint, and I'm going to be rolling out a daily podcast for the next week as we launch into the post-2015 holiday season. That's when this is being recorded live. If you're listening to this at a later point in the year, it doesn't really matter. What I'm going to share in the next week is applicable no matter what season you're in. And I'm going to give you short, punchy, bullet point type presentations on a daily basis. And I'll throw in there the best holiday tips for managing your weight and your energy as well. And then at the very end, I want to share something that's just very specific for the Project You listeners and those of you on the email newsletter list. So let's dive into episode 35. Skinny fat is a concept that you may or may not have heard of before, and I'm going to elaborate on it in a little bit more detail and why this is critical. So what happens as people lose muscle mass, typically with age or alterations in stress level and hormones and other factors? The muscle, skeletal muscle, the stuff that gives us the shape and the bulk that we may want for a man, or some of the curve and tone of a female, the muscle is actually replaced with fat. And it actually has a specific impact on health. It's linked to a higher risk of death. And so as this white fat infiltrates the muscle, it really sort of changes the whole metabolic process inside the body. And we need to add some strength training into the regimen. I've talked about this before, but I think it's an important point just to really drive home the message. So just take a look at the top finishers in either LA Marathon or the New York City Marathon. Just look at their physique and how they appear, and then contrast that to an Olympic sprinter like Usain Bolt or whoever your favorite sprinter is, man or woman. And just look at their physique and kind of decide in your own mind which you'd rather be now, whatever age you are now, and fast forward 10, 15, 20 years, which would you rather look like at a later age? And it's certainly possible. I've seen plenty of 75 and even 80-year-old gentlemen who are ripped, who are very physically fit, and that is in part due to strength and strength training. It's really critical to maintain muscle mass as we age for health and longevity. It's not just about getting old, but it's about aging and retaining function. Nobody wants to grow old and have poor function. Everybody wants to retain and regain that desired fountain of youth, if you will, as they age. And so strength training is just an important part of that. And another spin on that is it's not all about body mass. We get so focused on numbers in today's society where take your height, your weight, plug it into a formula, and that will tell you if you're skinny or fat. Well, that's hogwash. Yes, I said hogwash. It's something my daughter said to me recently. But anyways, it's more than that. It's actually the composition of the body, and there are various scales that are very instrumental in helping you figure this out. There's a simple scale that you can get on Amazon. It's Tanita. I'll put a link in the show notes. It's one that I've used for years, particularly in the realm of triathlon training and helping some of my athletes in terms of determining body composition, body water weight, and other things. And then there are the professional grade ones that you can have an analysis done at a medical office. And so they're very fascinating little devices that give you some real concrete data points as opposed to just a BMI of 26 is obese. It's so much more than that. The other thing to note about is either DEXA scan or bioimpedance. That's what I was talking about with the scales. But bone health is critically tied to strength and muscle mass as we age. And we know that people who are skinny fat tend to have weaker bones and are at increased risk for fall and fractures, which doesn't sound like maybe a huge problem if you're listening to this in your 30s or 40s. But trust me, when you get into your 60s or 70s, a hip fracture or a spine fracture will radically alter the course of your life and is potentially fatal. People do die from hip fractures. The other part to note is dementia. We talked about getting to an advanced age and retaining your faculties, not only physically, but also mentally. Dementia and mortality are decreased by fitness. And so in the medical realm, we use a metabolic equivalent, or a MET. And it's been shown scientifically that the mortality decreases by 14% for every increase in MET. And so, for example, somebody who can, run up and down the steps, push the lawnmower, do whatever activities they want, they're functioning, at a higher MET. The scale, depending on which one you use, is usually, 7, 8, 9 are the very fit, versus 1, which any activity at all causes chest pain and shortness of breath. So the last thing that I want to leave you with is duration. And it's easy to get wrapped up into the more is better. And I've been guilty of this myself as an endurance athlete, but more is not always better. And this has been proven by several studies, but most notably the Copenhagen City Heart Study. And what they found really ties to not only the duration, but also the intensity of exercise. And so if you hit that sweet spot, which is, a certain speed and a certain duration per week, that really boosts the chance of living longer, for men up to 6.2 years longer, and women 5 years longer. And so if you're going in this study, if you're going too slow, like less than 5 miles per hour, or jogging too fast or running too fast at 7 miles per hour, there's actually some detriment to longevity in terms of getting a return on your investment for the energy expended in that exercise. So really the best is about 1 to 2.5 hours per week at a moderate pace. This is just, running and jogging. So just take that into heart as you're, jumping on the treadmill for an hour and a half, 2 hours, or you're headed out for a very long run at a super slow pace. Just keep that in mind, depending on your fitness goals, your age, and your current level, and where you want to be. And so I'm going to wrap this up here, and I'll be talking to you tomorrow. I've got, I won't give away the topic. You'll have to check back then, but there'll be a few show notes on the blog at Mitchell MD, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.